It really depends on how you pronounce it, how you take this talk. How could we stop the future, even if we wanted to? Or how could we stop the future, even if we wanted to? Do you remember the exact day, the precise day, and what you were doing on the day that the future stopped being this carbon fiber plated, matte black, glossy, interactive, wonderful thing, and suddenly started to seem just a bit boring? The moment when to speculate about the future use of technology seemed about as gauche as thinking about atomic-powered kitchens. Was it perhaps the day when you brought your iPhone 4 home in its box, opened it, and discovered it wasn't quite what you'd hoped for? Was it perhaps the day when you discovered that do no evil Google, that Amazon, that Apple, that Facebook were not quite the Robin Hoods you might have hoped they were, but might be somewhat closer to the robber barons of the 19th century? Was the day when the future lost its allure the day when we noticed that sales of vinyl records were going up for the first time in 20 years? Or was it the time when one got old enough to realize that the future was changing at a different pace for different generations? The day when I realized that for people who had known nothing but the web, time was moving at a different rate from people like me who can remember something called black and white television? Or was it the day when we realized that time was right to move on? These are all visions of designers. Designers spend most of their time thinking about the future, but there was a time when designers speculated about solutions to the future. And I think we're now in a moment when people find themselves asking questions about what it is that design and the future could be doing. They're speculating. They're asking us to think carefully about where we're going and what that might mean. We've managed to become accustomed to the idea of trading in our smartphone for a new one every 9 months, instead of licensing copper wires from the government and Bakelite telephones for life. We've done that, and it anesthetizes us to the effects of change in the future. But in fact, the world around us is impacting on us. Every new technology, every idea of the future that we hope is going to be a radical technology bringing us new things, seems to have within it the equal and opposite impact of being potentially something which is totalitarian and oppressive and authoritarian. Twitter, as we've heard today, has the power to inform and to mislead. It was something we hoped was going to bring a revolution, but it also a potential baying lynch mob waiting to have its say. We believed that Google and the others were going to set us free, and yet we discover in the remarkably percipient piece that John Norton wrote in The Guardian last week, in which he compared the business practices of Facebook to being akin to sharecropping in the 19th century, with all of us peasants working for free to provide Mark Zuckerberg with a living. We are in a time when we need to come to terms with what the future will be, and we need to understand what the world is doing to us. We are having our world reshaped, sometimes by not very advanced technologies. Who would have predicted that the invention of the shipping container in the 1950s would have led to the eclipse of every dockyard area in the world, and one day to the transformation of Chinese peasants into the workforce for one of the world's largest economies, an economic superpower? Who would have predicted that the impact of iTunes will be to kill the record store and the bookshop, and in the end, the high street? And would we have actually made that choice if we'd been given a choice? Did we choose to see Kodak, a company which once had 110,000 engineer-grade jobs, disappear, to be replaced by Instagram, which at the moment that it was acquired by Mark Zuckerberg for $1 billion, had 13 employees? Are we in a situation where we can take control of what we're doing? The industrial cities of the first industrial revolution were shaped by the mill owners of Manchester, the copper miners of Cornwall. They produced the city that we know, the shell of which is still all around us, a city of canals, a city of railways, a city of stock markets, and a city which is now being made redundant. We're now watching the third industrial revolution, fueled by the MakerBot you see behind me, which is going to one day bring back production from the Chinese factory you've just seen. But we can't really speculate about what the kind of city that Instagram and Facebook are going to give us. But I'm not sure that we're being asked about what it would be like. We are, of course, already seeing some of the negative possible impacts of this new technology. This is the notorious printable gun. Are we to regulate these things? Are we to try and stop this future from happening? Of course, we look back to totalitarians of the past who tried to control the photocopier and the Gestetner machine. That's authoritarianism. But are we going to go to the stake for the sacred right of a National Rifle Association to print their own shoulder-launched rocket launchers at home? I don't think so. I think we need to be in a situation where we might not want to stop the future from happening, but it's very important that we understand where it's going. Thank you.